Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're going to do a weekly metagame breakdown, our first of the historic best of 3 format after the release of Edge of Eternities. Notably, this weekend is the historic metagame challenge, so we can get a look at some of these new decks. It's very early. Usually I wait 7 days to start getting some data, so some of these win rates are going to be very high because it's like 15 game sample sizes, but I tried to curate and see a mix of decks that are reasonable to take to the event. Big thing is Eldrazi got a big upgrade in terms of their mana base. Eldrazi Temple coming in, making it so they can play a leaner version of the Eldrazi deck and give them access to 8 soul lands, two mana producing lands in the colors. So we'll take a look and see from there. As the weekend goes on, as I find more deck lists, stuff pops up, we will post it in the video description as well, but you can find all the deck lists there. We're going to get the data from Untapped right now. If you want to use Untapped, the link is in the video description for it as well. So we are going to, normally we look at popularity of the day, but it's just, there's not a lot of data right now. It's very soon after the release, so we're going to do our best effort here. If we're looking at like games played, there's only been 2,300 games played from Platinum to Mythic from the 29th through today the 1st, so for 4 days. So highest win rate, again, these 15 game samples, this is probably like Capella only, one of the players getting this, but this is the Abzan Sorin. So there's many flavors of Sorin, but the kind of core combo is Sorin Impervious Bloodlord, kind of splinter twinning where you minus and put into play Saint Elenda, which lets you draft from one of 4 options in its spellbook and then cast it for free. It's a bunch of cards that, like Faith's Feathers, the vampire creature 3/2 that gains you 4 life, bunch of spells that then gain you 4 life, which then makes you Sarah Avatar tokens, just a token equal to the amount of life you gain for the turn. You also have Vona in here, which lets you just kind of destroy something when it enters. It's another vampire, and then you can get a copy in your hand by dumping a card. Overlord of the Baelmerk helps you kind of mill into the combo. You also have the Blink combo of Dedicated Doll Makers. Felia could blink your Overlords or any of your ETB stuff. Juggernaut Peddler eats away at your opponent's hand. Then you have Emperor of Bones, which can reanimate any of your kind of big threats. Assemble a Team and Malevolent Rumble as ways to dig for the combo. This version's not playing any Thoughtseize main. Sometimes you'll see Inquisition. It's very heavy on the 2s in this particular instance, but kind of the orientation there. We're seeing Starting Town in the mana base as well. Really do not like that it's defaulting to these lands. They needed to do a better job. These lands are great, but from a deck list perspective, it's terrible to look at because you can't tell what the card is without hovering over it. They needed to just, on the digital version, put the font at the top. Rant over. Graveyard Hate, kind of combo hate with Surgical. Thoughtseize for cheap hand hate. Bitter Triumph, flexible removal. More hand hate. The kind of tech card for the mirror is Come Back Wrong. You destroy a creature, then you get to put it into play under your turn. So you destroy their Elenda or big threat, and then you get to cheat it into play for your turn, get the ETB value. Divine Purge for like auras, low to the ground energy. Same with Lockdown, Calling Ritual, just your sweeper package when you're getting swarmed by various decks. For Eldrazi, there's a few configurations of the deck, and I wanted to actually see really quick. There was one other version. I'm going to show all the Eldrazi decks together. Forgive me for this. I want to see. There was one with... No, okay, so it's not showing up. There's one that went up to Emrakul, the Promise End. But with the access of Eldrazi Temple, so it taps for 1 mana, but if you cast Eldrazi spells or activate their abilities, you get to add 2 mana. This allows you to play 2-drop Eldrazi's on turn 1 or 3 drops on turn 2. Gives you some value there. So this is kind of more akin to the modern version. We have Fleshraker, so 3 mana, 2/2, and then whenever you cast this colorless spell, you get to make Eldrazi Scions. And then whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield, deals 1 damage. So it's kind of self-enabling, pinging. It gives you some reach. So this one's a little bit more, I would say, aggro-ish. It That Heralds the End is both an anthem as well as a cost reducer for your bigger Eldrazi. Kozilek's Command in here also gets the reduction because it is in a kindred spell. So you have Eldrazi in the subtype, so it gets cost reduced Eldrazi Temple from it. We have Wastegate Battle Mage, 2 mana 2/2, but you can also have the kicker that either bounces something or it exiles an artifact or enchantment, so just some flexibility in that sense. Eldrazi Linebreaker, this one here is just a trample card, comes in, and then it does, so at the beginning of your combat, target creature you control gets haste and +X, where X is the number of draws you control, so it can push through a bunch of damage on its own. So a little bit more low to the ground than what we've seen in the past, like in the Simic versions. You have Sowing Mycospawn and then Thought-Knot Seer. This on turn 2 is very powerful. Then your top end is the Devourer and Sire of 7 Deaths. I'm very much not looking forward to having to spend 17 wild cards on this deck, but probably I'm going to have to. My buddy who plays a lot of Eldrazi was playing this yesterday at Thursday Night Magic in between rounds, and he said he really liked it. You have like Secluded Courtyard in here, Unclaimed Territory, Cavern, so just a bunch of soul lands to kind of offset this while still providing you colorless mana. In the sideboard, Ghost Quarter, just land destruction, Thief of Existence. Some of these cards are deep cuts from MH3 Limited. 3 mana when you cast a spell, exile up to 1 target non-creature, non-land permanent opponent controls, mana value 4 or less. If you do, gains when this creature leaves the battlefield, target opponent. Okay, so it's like a Skyclave Apparition style effect that gives them a card draw after. You have Dismember for just removal. Warping Whale can be either removal, counter sorcery, or give you an Eldrazi Scion. Got the cool new comic book art, very hard to read. Flute as cheap disruption for like keep hate pieces, stuff like that. Vexing Bauble, anything looking to play 0 mana spells, cheat out, stuff like that. Storm. Actually, this wouldn't really work so much for Storm decks. Probably don't need Bauble in this format as much that I think about it. Like, there's Affinity, but not like be all end all. There's not a lot of decks trying to free cast. There's not the Evoke Elementals. There's not Show and Tell, so I probably would play something else instead of this. Graveyard Hate, Things Genes play, Chalice just to lock your opponent out of casting spells. So it's not the next sequential, but I want to show the Simic version of the deck. So again, you have Eldrazi Temple in here. This one's playing bigger on curve. So you have more ramp package, Delighted Halfling, Utopia Sprawl, Malavin Rumble, and the Mind Stone gets you ahead. You have Devour to kind of set up your draws. You have Ugin on the top end along with Emrakul. Cool interaction here is if you have Ugin's Binding in your graveyard, if you evoke the Null Drifter, it still counts as 7. So it then resets your opponent's board. You have a Karn board here with just a bunch of situational artifacts. We won't go through them, but they're pretty self-explanatory. Break in case of emergency style effect. Shifting Woodlands can let you copy one of your creatures in the graveyard, so it's kind of a value play out of your graveyard, or like reanimate Emrakul, have it become like Devour, stuff like that, and attack in. We have Dimir Ninjas, which is a surprise. Don't see too much ninjas anymore. So playing with the ninjutsu ability, you have a bunch of cheap evasive creatures. Thousand Faced Ninja. This one's unblockable. Fairy Seer, just evasive, sets up your scry. The cheap disruption. You have Fatal Push, Spell Pierce. Ornithopter's kind of free value. Then you can ninja out of cards like Moon Circuit Hacket, that draws you a card. Silver Fur Master reduces other ninjutsu costs and is a lord. Swarm Saboteur basically gives you copies of Virus Beetle into hand when it connects. Fighting Palm Ninja eats away at your opponent's hand, and then you have some Kaidos. The plus on Kaido is very reasonable in this deck because you're all ninjas, so it's just like a global anthem for the deck. Leyline for graveyard deck. Against Swarm decks, you can just Aetherize them, kind of the do they have Settle the Wreckage in blue type effect. Graveyard combo hates, graveyard hate, some more. It's a lot of graveyard hate, I would say. Instead of this, play Consign to Memory. You don't need 7 pieces of graveyard hate. Play Consign to Memory would probably be my call as a kind of cleanup card. Consign to be very good against the Eldrazi decks. So we have Boros Auras. This is a pretty stock list, so I won't go too much into it. It's a deck we've seen for quite some time. Flex spot, as always, is Hushbringer versus Amped Raptor. Hushbringer is better into heavy energy fields, mono green, stuff like that. Amped Raptor is more into the mid-rangey, heavy interactive decks because it gives you more value. But Light Pause, Core Spirit Dancer, take advantage of you playing a bunch of auras. This one's actually interestingly on 3 Sticky Fingers for the Menace and creates some more treasures, but toolboxy kind of aura shell. Containment Priest is very good against the Sorin decks when this cheats into play, anything coming out of the graveyard. Hushbringer, anything with ETBs. Activated abilities with Pithing Needle, Lauren's Escape for protection, Fragment, cheap removal, Tormund Crypt for graveyard hate. Esper Sorin, so same combo, Sorin Elenda, but this one also has the Ulamog Emperor of Bones combo. What you're able to do here is if you reanimate Ulamog, it sees itself in exile when it comes into play. Then it gets haste right away and you annihilate your opponent's board, or like 10 permanents. You have Psychic Frog in here to kind of refill your hand on drawing cards, and then Diviner Fates, basically whenever you discard a card once per turn, you get to seek a random card of the same type from your deck into your hand. So with Psychic Frog, you basically discard and then draw a card for free. So you never kind of lose out on card advantage while making your Psychic Frog really big. This will also other ways to kind of help you find combo pieces in that regard. Ancient Vendetta is kind of a Stonebrain style effect. You have temporary lockdown for the go wide decks, Peddler for more hand hate, Flute like we mentioned, Dampening Sphere for like Lotus, any sort of Stormish style deck, hand hate, Stone of Arage for sacrifice decks, energy decks, and then Fragment Reality for cheap removal. Izzet Wizards, Corey, 79%. I've been playing Izzet, Corey, Steel, and Legacy for the last couple weeks. I finally built it, and it is so much fun. It is so busted in that format. Having like just doing stupid stuff with it. This deck here, your Wizard package is the more aggressive version with 6 shots. Swiftspear's Teaching is a really sweet cantrip, gives the next creature you cast haste and prowess. Prowess does stack, so each instance of prowess would trigger. So you can get double prowess, triple prowess, quad prowess, and it's a really nice card. So you can go this on 1, Dread Horde, attack right away, flash it back, and then your next creature gets the boost as well. This one's playing Shove Aside is more cheap removal in here, Reckless Charge, so a lot of haste, kind of big power boosts. Flame of Anor on the top end, and then you have Sundering Eruption to destroy some lands, and then kind of pseudo unblockable. You have cheap Sweepers and Pyroclasm for like energy and stuff. Counterspell's been unlocked here, so you could shift to more kind of mid-rangey if needed and have interaction in that sense. Flute is cheap kind of hate pieces, so Flute Needle for like Sorin and stuff, Meltdown for Affinity, Fading Hope deals with Elenda or bigger stuff, and then some graveyard hate with Surgical and Tormund's Crypt. We have Dimir Midrange. So this one is kind of sweet. It's almost like the Legacy-esque version of Dimir Mid. We don't have Barrowgoy for stuff like that, but you have your Tamios in here. We don't Brainstorm to flip Tamio nicely, but Tamio, Snapcaster, Frog, Kaido, something you could cheat into play here. Kalim taps down stuff, and it's just a big threat that you can just cheat in by just drawing cards, which is nice. Sorin's Ransom in here is your card advantage engine, bunch of cheap counters, cheap removal, counterspell, Shoot the Sheriff as more removal in that sense. And then any creature lands, no, just your channel lands. Deluge is a sweeper, cheap counters in Dispute, Stern Scolding, Consigned to Memory. I think if you're in blue, play 3 to 4 of these in your sideboard at this point. Very strong card. Cling to Dust, cheap counter, or like Graveyard Hate, Surgical again, Spear, and then against sack decks you have Stone of Arage. These decks are fun. Like I kind of wanted to build this in Legacy too, but you just get Bowmaster, you get Barrowgoyf, you get Nethergoyf in there. So Abzan, this is Abzan kind of Scurry Oak combo. So it's Oops All combos many ways, 67%. So Coco helps you find the pieces. So if you have Heliod, Scurry Oak, and a way to gain life and Guide of Souls, you make infinite tokens, make infinite life. You also have Rosy Oak, which works in the same way. So Rosy Oak comes into play. So whenever you create a token, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control other than Rosy. So how it works is once this gets triggered, you get to just basically put a counter on it, which makes a token, which then triggers Rosy, which puts a counter on it over and over. Same with Basking Brood Scale. So whenever a counter is put on it, you make an Eldrazi Scion. So that creates a loop as well to make you an infinite board state. And then like Osset's Pride in here just for value, Peddler for kind of hand hate, Protection, Giver of Runes, and Fiend Artisan as a way to kind of tutor through the deck. Didn't realize this got special guest. This is really cool art. We have Cthulhu Nightmare just for the grindier matchups. Busted Alliance can be a flexible card to gain you life, and then also just be sack an attacking creature, back to nature against heavy enchantment-based decks, combo hate, bunch of these cards we've mentioned before, but this is kind of like your package of, if you're white, play Fragment, play Surgical, Stone of Arage, Pithing Needle. Always play those cards. If blue, play Consign to Memory. Cool take on Mardu kind of Sacrifice. So this is a Mobilize sub-theme. So Johnny in here, Stadium Headliner, makes you tokens, can be used as removal. And then we have Waystone's Guidance. So 2 mana, attacking tokens, you get +1. Whenever you cast your first creature per turn, that spell gains Mobilize 2. So it basically staples Mobilize 2 onto any creature. Marionette Apprentice. This becomes Mobilize 3 because it adds it on. Esper Sentinel, whatever. Plays really, really nicely with Mardu Thunderkite. This card is absolutely cracked. 3 mana, 2/4 flying, Mobilize 2. When it comes into play, you choose one. So either your creatures perpetually get Menace, Lifelink, or Haste. So in and of its own, just curving, if you go Waystone's Guidance into Mardu Thunder Hellkite, you give it Haste. It has Mobilize 4, so it attacks for 10 damage that turn because you have 4 tokens at 2 power since you get the boost, plus the 2 power here. So it just outputs huge amounts of damage. You have a Sephiroth in here when they die, the tokens. Same with like Marionette Apprentice or Goblin Bombardment. And you have Zurgo Storm Render. 3 mana, Mobilize 1. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, you draw a card if it was attacking. Otherwise, each opponent loses 1 life. Then you have Voice of Victory for more counterspell heavy decks. Just a bunch of cheap removal. Esper Sentinel's Tax. Just a really sweet deck. I love this card. It is so strong. And then lastly, we have Izzet Affinity, 62%. So we've had various affinity piles. A couple new cards from the set. We have Pinnacle Emissary, 3 mana, 3/3, artifact creature robot. So it has warp. So you can actually cast this for 1 mana and then just storm off. And then it goes into exile and you can cast it again from exile. So whenever you cast an artifact creature, you create basically a 1/1 artifact creature with flying that can only block creatures with flying. But think of it as like almost like a pseudo Young Pyromancer style effect, but for artifacts. So it plays really strong because you could like turn 1 this, cast a bunch of 0 drops, make a bunch of tokens. There's Tezzeret, Cruel Captain, 3 mana for loyalty. So whenever an artifact enters, you put a loyalty counter on it. You can tap an artifact. If it's an artifact creature, you put a counter on it. You can tutor for artifacts 1 or less. And then you get an emblem for 7 at the beginning of your combat each turn. Put 3 counters on an artifact, and it basically animates something. Very cheap to get out Kappa Cannoneer, get your card draw from Thought Monitor in here. Again, a bunch of Stone of Arage, sack decks, cheap disruption. Against aggressive decks, you have Shadow Sphere, activated abilities, Consign for Eldrazi or the Mirrors. And then you have your kind of bounce effects for like Auras, and then Tormod's Crypt for Graveyard Hate. So it's a quick rundown. Good luck those playing. If you have any sweet decks, share it in the comments. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.